Hello Warlords, Rodge here, aka the Wisco Horn Dog. It is Saga Thursday once again. We got a very special episode for you. We're rocking a battle report. So this is something I've been meaning to do for some time, but it's kind of tricky getting games in, getting people to agree to taking photos and stuff like that. But finally made it happen, and this is going to be my Anglo-Danes, as featured in a previous review, versus Aaron Loomis's Jomsviking, which is a nice looking army that was also featured previously. So you can refer to those prior videos if you want to check out some better photos of the models that you will see on the battlefield before us. So Aaron popped on over to the Rodge Lodge. He is part of the Adepticon Saga Grand Melee team, and he actually doesn't live too far away from me, so that worked out pretty nice. He, as I mentioned, was rocking the Jomsvikings. So we decided to play a game from the Aetius and Arthur book, and namely it's Battle Around the Campfire. So this scenario looks really cool and is pretty fun. You can see the battlefield here, that the deployment is quite chaotic. So basically you kind of take turns placing units, and I think you just have to be medium away from another guy's units. You can kind of put a unit down here, and then I'll put one here, and then he put one here, and you kind of alternate. So you kind of keep putting units in place to jump on the other guy. But at the end of it, you put down fatigue markers, so you can place 2 on your opponent and 2 on yourself. So you can kind of spread them out as necessary, but you don't have total control. For our battlefield, I actually have a piece of campfire scenery. We'll get a closer look at that, so that was appropriate. So what we figured went down was the Anglo-Danes hired these Jomsvikings to go after some Welshmen or some Irish Reavers, something like that. The battle's been won, but now the time has come to pay. The Danes have arranged a little double cross here. So they sent these Feardmen and these Daneaxers off, and now they've come to surprise the Jomsvikings, but they also had a double cross in mind and had these guys waiting for these dudes to show up. So I think that is the general idea. Okay, starting from left to right here, we've got Jomsviking warriors, and then the rest are actually Hearthguard. So Hearthguard, Warlord, and an 8-pack of Hearthguard. And then I have an 8-pack of Danish Hearthguard here with the Dane axes, a 4-pack of Hearthguard, unit of 10-ish warriors, I think, because there's a 4-pack of warriors here, and then I think there's 10 guys in the back there. So that is the setup. So you can see I got my Daneaxers poised to hopefully go in on the side there and take out some guys. But this will be an interesting battle, as I'm looking for the slow burn with my Anglo-Danes, kind of moving up, wear them down with fatigues, but I'm going to have to get stuck in here pretty quickly. Okay, I win the roll-off to go first. I go for a attack, pretty much all-out attack here. Didn't roll any helmets, unfortunately. So I got intimidation for the opposing turn. I've got unforgiving here. Usually I save that for the enemy turn so I can counterattack, but mostly just loading up on activations. I want to use those Daneaxers while I still got them. And we gave Aaron 3 dice as it was a random start. So he loaded up on Pagan Armor and Punishment, and these will actually prove to be pretty big here. First thing, I move up my Hearthguard here, and I think he might have used one of his abilities to soak up one of my activations, but you can see I had an extra dice on there. And then with my other activation, I go in. So I did kind of cock this up a bit because this guy on the end here was able to get in. So what I needed to do was actually, when I was moving up, was keep these guys a little further back. So only 2 of them would be within medium, and then the rest could just mob up around this guy here. So I could have knocked those 2 extra attacks off. Not a big deal, but we were both a little rusty going in. So we can see I had a fatigue for a double activation. He had a fatigue to start with. I thought it was sitting pretty good, but with, I believe, pagan armor, he was able to cut down my attacks in half. So I went from 16 to 8, and he was rolling 8, so it was actually an even matchup in the end, sadly. Thinking back, I kind of was maybe over worried about the Jomsvikings Wrath, and I haven't played them that often, so I'm kind of curious if that was the right play, and if anybody would have any advice on that, I would love to hear it, because I'm thinking if I would have stuck with the 16 attacks and just let him generate the Wrath, that I would have been able to wipe these guys out statistically. That would have been 16 attacks, 8 hits. You know, you'd save a third of those, but that'd still be 5 or 6 wounds. So I'd be able to eliminate these guys and put a fatigue on this unit over here. But in the end, I voluntarily cut my attacks in half. It worked out quite poorly. I didn't kill any, and he made all his saves, and he killed 2 of my Danish Hearthguard. So pretty typical for my luck. I don't know what the heck I was expecting, but not so good start to my first turn. Other than that, I moved my Warlord up to kind of jump on some fools, maybe tempt them in, and there's a shot basically. I think that was all I had dice for on my first turn. Okay, so you can see I did save Unforgiving. As I mentioned, I like to use that on the enemy's turn. I've got a unit I can target when my turn comes, and then I've got Intimidation. So Aaron rocking the Northern Tempest here, and a Storm Gathers to get rid of fatigue, and then just some activations over here, and we'll see. He actually doesn't do that much, so he shed some fatigue on this unit of Hearthguard and his Warlord, and then shed a fatigue on this Hearthguard and this unit of Hearthguard there, between the different abilities that he had. I think that was all he had. I don't think he used Northern Tempest. There was a turn that he forgot to use Northern Tempest. I think it might be this very first one here. We're both kind of rusty. I think I got saved in the end. As we'll see, I didn't have that many warriors towards the end of the game, so that could have been potentially pretty huge. So besides getting rid of the fatigues, he moved this Hearthguard unit back, and this unit of Hearthguard with the Warlord as well, closer to my warriors back there, so he might have intentions towards them, but basically moving away from my battle line. Not sure how I feel about that. Okay, my turn. You can see, lacking helmets once again. I'm not entirely sure what I would have done if I had rolled some, but basically, I don't have too much going on. There isn't much I can do on the Danish board to support me. So I'm kind of going in whole hog, loading up the choral activations here. I want to get my warriors in the fray and then position the rest of my units. And yeah, you can see he left Northern Tempest up over there. But we'll get it done on my turn. So I moved the warriors in on the Warlord. And I know I'm not going to get the Warlord, but basically it's a way that I can sort of engage the Hearthguard, but only suffer 5 attacks instead of 8 back. And I'm not expecting much, but hopefully I could wear these guys down and potentially eliminate that Hearthguard unit. All right, the first go of it did kill 2 Hearthguard, but took quite a number in the end. There's only 7 of them left. I think I started with 10, so took 3, but were repulsed. What the heck, I'm going in a second time here, and surprisingly, I get another Hearthguard, and I only lose a single warrior. So even combat there, and I bounce. That could have been a lot worse. But you can see I'm moving up my Warlord here, so I'm kind of getting within range of some action. He's going to have to make some tough decisions here. All right, his go. He's got Pagan Armor up and a couple activations. All right, so Northern Tempest was played. And I took that 4-man unit of warriors down to 3. They were just hanging out here anyway, so they're pretty much out of the game. He moves up his Hearthguard and combos in the Hearthguard with the Warlord. It's going to be quite a slaughter, but I did use Unforgiven, as you can see. So these guys are now eliminated from the board, but I was able to get 2 fatigues on the Hearthguard, and now there's 3 on the Warlord. That's pretty much all of his activations with Intimidation going on. And so going into my turn, some interesting observations here. We got a single Hearthguard, potential fatigue bomb waiting to go off, and put another fatigue on these guys. And Aaron still hasn't moved these guys over on the flank here. They still kind of have been hovering on the table edge. He's been using his dice to move his central battle line back. We'll see how that plays out. My go, able to get a helmet here, but end up using it for unforgiving. I've got some stubbornness in here, so I'm planning to go against those heavily fatigued units, so I'll be able to get some extra attack dice. But once again, basically just using my activation, my dice for activation here, playing really aggressively. And I move up the warriors apart from my warlord to engage that single Hearthguard and end up taking him down. So they'll take a fatigue for combat, put an extra fatigue on these guys here. I move my warlord up and I use side by side to get into combat with the warlords here. So it's looking pretty good. You can see that the Jomsviking warlord is exhausted. I'm going to have a fatigue on my guy and 2 on the warriors, but I'll have a huge advantage in attacks. Two of his versus 5, 8, 11, 12, 13. 12 or 13 here. He does have a pile of Hearthguard right here. So again, this is kind of just a way to get at the Hearthguard without having to take so many attacks. He has so many meat shields, I'll never get through them all. And he does have peg and armor up. But after all the dice are rolled, the warlord actually goes down. So I actually did maybe 5, 6, 7 or more wounds, and he flubbed pretty much all of the block dice. So at that point, it wasn't really worth taking out any Hearthguard, which was kind of interesting. I did so many wounds that the warlord was going to die anyways. So you don't actually have to take out the Hearthguard models. That's just optionally they can take those wounds. So I was actually pleased to take out the warlord, but then kind of not too happy to have this fully charged Hearthguard unit looking at me. They are exhausted, but on his turn, he can rest, or he has different abilities. So he can actually probably jump on my warlord and do some serious damage, take out these warlords, activate multiple times, and be able to get me. So actually a little concerned about this. So I decide I have one last Hearthguard activation, which I was going to use on a different unit, but end up using on my warlord to go in, and I use a fatigue, I think to make them easier to hit, because I want to try to kill as many as possible. And then I did pop Unforgiving, so I was going to add 2 fatigues at the end of this combat. So actually did way more than I expected. So with 5 attacks, I killed 3 of them. I took 2 in return, which the warriors absorbed, and these guys are part of the Hearthguard unit. He just forgot to move them for this photo. So they've got 5 fatigue on them going into Aaron's turn. The overall look of the battlefield at the end of my turn, still looking pretty decent. And these you can see these guys are double or even a triple activation out, the warriors, and doubles for this unit here. So looking pretty good. Let's see what Aaron is going to get up to. Okay, so this is Aaron's board right here, and it's actually not quite accurate. The Wrath was still at 0 at the start of Aaron's turn. So what happened was he's got 1 Hearthguard activation, he's got 2 of this Wrath, or this is the old board, so it's labeled as differently than Pagan Fear, I think might be what it calls, and then a Storm Gathers. So what happens is I actually let some of these Wrath go through. So I cancel a Storm Gathers, so he gets 2 for that one. So I think this was in the middle of the turn. I forgot to snap a picture. I'm going to cancel one of the activations up here, so he's going to end up at 3. I'm going to use Intimidation to cancel either the Hearthguard activation or one of the Wrath ones. So basically that Hearthguard unit with 5 fatigue, all he can do is get a single rest activation with them. Yeah, it's a pretty phenomenal turn. I didn't even snap any pictures because he didn't move anything. So that was pretty amazing. He is up to 3 Wrath now, so I better jump on this. So phenomenal turn with the rares. Get a Trapped up here, loading up on Stubbornness again, and then I can actually use Exhaustion, which normally I don't use that one a lot, but you'll see there's one particular way that you can use it. So I used Trap first. I put a fatigue on the Hearthguard. So since he rested on his turn, he was at 4. Now they went to 5 again, even though there's a pile right here. We'll get to that in a second. So put a fatigue on this unit, these guys, this unit, and then I use Exhaustion to eliminate 2 of the Hearthguard outright, and so they went down to 4 fatigue because you have to remove a fatigue when you use that ability. So normally that's why you don't want to use it, because you just want to leave them exhausted. It's better than killing a couple guys, but they're still exhausted. So on my turn, I send in the Warlord and we take them out, and that's basically all that's going on my turn. I did move these Hearthguard up, kind of eyeing these guys up here. They're kind of his last chance to maybe go after my Warlord. On his turn, I didn't snap a pick of the Saga dice, but he moves in, does a number on the warriors, forces them to retreat, and then does another activation into my Warlord there. And thankfully, I still had a couple guys in, so it looked like he did a wound there, but they bounce. It's going to set up my turn. So once again, I'm just loading up on activations, just moving my guys, not using my abilities too much here. But I did load up on Hard as Iron because I want to get those Dane Axe Hearthguard in the action again, and I don't want a repeat of last time. But on my turn, I move in. I think I have to do a double activation to get him into these 3 Hearthguard here. I think he does have a fatigue on him, although I don't see a marker. So I popped Hard as Iron, but after all is said and done, son of a bitch here. So I killed 3 of his Hearthguard, and he actually killed 3 of mine as well. So at that point, I was a little freaked out because he's still got these full units left. My guys are well depleted. So I was worried with that last hurrah, since he took out an equal number of my Hearthguard, that this might be a draw in the end. But we countered it up, and since I killed his Warlord, I was actually the exact amount ahead. I think you got to win by 3. So I think I was exactly 3 ahead in the slaughtering point. So it was a victory at this point, but if he could basically just kill one guy without getting anything done in return, or just give a little better than he gets, he could actually bring it back to a draw. His turn, he just had 2 dice. I think he loaded up on Wrath here because if you can see, his Wrath is up to 5 here, and he actually didn't get to move. So maybe he should have used these activations down here. But so another null turn for the Jomsvikings on mine, and basically I just load up on the defensive abilities here: Hard as Iron, Shield Wall, Intimidation, and I move these Huskarls into the woods here. Just gonna wait out the storm, so he could bring them against these guys here, or he could swing these guys around. These guys do have a fatigue on them, and I think we calculated out it's going to be a triple activation for either one of them. But on his turn, he rolls the double rares, so he turns those in for some more stuff. No matter what, he needed to get 4 activations down here, so he really sadly didn't get to use any of the good stuff over here, because it was going to be a triple activation to move either of those units, and then I was going to cancel 1. So Saga's a game of dice, so he moves up, moves in. I'm going to pop all of my abilities, and he actually kills 1, but I kill 5 or 6 warriors, so I do manage to strengthen my lead a little bit in the end. But you can see a bloody battle all around. Really, really good game. Kind of a strange game with my Anglo-Danes. Usually it's a slow burn with the Anglo-Danes. You kind of build up the fatigue on them by feeding them some units and then kind of dropping the hammer. But since you started out so close to begin with, I'm always more of an aggressive player anyway. So you can see I just went directly at it, and I just kept hammering him. Thankfully, the dice against his Warlord worked out in the end, because that gave me the big advantage of Saga dice generation for the second half of that game, and you just couldn't get enough dice to get anything going. That is how this game wrapped up. Hopefully you enjoyed the first battle report on the SAGA Thursday channel. I definitely would like to do some more of these photo ones, and then eventually maybe a live video one of some kind. But it was really fun putting this together, chatting about it. If you enjoyed the battle report, would like to see more, please drop me a line, let me know. Like and favorite this shit as always. Share this with a buddy if they're thinking about the Anglo-Danes, the Jomsvikings, or just wanted to see how that battle around the campfire scenario worked out. It was a load of fun. I definitely play it again. It definitely mixed up the play styles for sure. So I think anything that does that is a load of fun. But overall, great game. Thanks to Aaron for playing and let me take photos of it throughout. We're definitely going to do it again. And I think that's it for this week. I will catch you guys next time. Saga!